Henry Ford is famously quoted as saying, "Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right." On face value, this seems like a bit of a platitude, sort of like those Instagram motivational quotes that don't really mean anything, but traders like to share them anyway to give themselves a sense of hope. Well, what if I told you that to a certain extent, but in a very specific way, Henry Ford was actually correct?
Yes!
You see, it isn't about whether you think you can and are therefore motivated to achieve something, but it's more about a very specific shift in your mind that has been shown in studies to dramatically improve your ability to learn and excel in something. This is obviously very important for traders because ultimately we need to break barriers in our own development to achieve that consistently profitable state that we're all looking for. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the work of Dr. Carol Dweck, which I originally introduced to you in our video on creating the right mindset for becoming a great trader. If you haven't seen the Great Trader series, which is just 3 videos and the link is down below, then I really recommend going and checking that one out first. It will give you an overview before coming onto this video, which is going to then delve deeper, as I promised I would do, into the topic of fixed and growth mindsets. Let's have a look at these 2 mindset types, but we won't look at them just for trading. We'll look at them as a whole and how they apply to any area of your life. I want you to start understanding the power of this so you can have breakthroughs in all areas of your life, not just for trading. So, let's get started, shall we? A study was done on 400 5th grade students in the US by Dr. Dweck and her colleagues. The aim of the study was to find out the effect of praise on performance and motivation. In one of the experiments, the students were firstly given a moderately difficult task to perform. It was something that they should all have been able to achieve without too much strain. And at the end of this first test, the students were praised in 2 different ways. One group was praised for their intelligence, and the other group was praised for their effort. Now, the group that was praised for their intelligence were told things such as, "Oh wow, you must be really good at these activities." Whereas the group that was being praised for their effort were told things like, "Wow, you must have really worked hard at these activities." So this study took place around the same sort of time that parents were constantly being told about how they need to praise their children more and make them feel like they're smart to really build up their confidence. You know, the old trophy for taking part culture. However, Dr. Dweck points out that this type of praise for intelligence just produces a short burst of pride in the individual, followed by a long string of negative consequences. You see, what happened next in this study, when they moved on to a more complex and challenging problem that's going to take a little bit more effort to solve, the consequences were not great. The children were asked to explain why they didn't perform so well this time, and the group who had been praised for effort explained that it was due to the level of effort they put in, that maybe they didn't put in enough effort, or maybe they didn't use the correct process. Whereas the group that was praised for their intelligence claimed that they just weren't intelligent enough. On face value, this might not seem like such a big deal, until you start to look at how this affects motivation to pursue challenging tasks. When the children were given the option to complete tasks they were good at, or to move on to more complex tasks that would help them learn more, but also challenge them, the group that was praised for intelligence preferred to remain where they were. The group that was praised for their effort, they were happy to move on. More challenging tasks to them meant more opportunity to learn and grow. Whereas the group focused on intelligence preferred to stick with something that they knew they were already good at. They could almost use this as an opportunity to document their intelligence, to show off a little bit. It's as if they didn't want to be exposed as not being intelligent. They wanted to play safe. Essentially, it was found that these 2 groups represented 2 types of mindset, the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. To quote Dr. Carol Dweck, "Growth mindset people believe that their most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Brains and talent are just the starting point. This view creates a love of learning and a resilience that is essential for great accomplishment. Virtually all great people have had these qualities." Fixed mindset people believe their basic qualities, like their intelligence or talent, are simply fixed traits. They spend their time documenting their intelligence or talent instead of developing them. They also believe their talent alone creates success without effort. They're wrong. As we know from our Great Trader series of videos and from the work of psychologists like Anders Ericsson, the way to build talent is to challenge yourself through repeating something again and again in a deliberate practice state that challenges you and forces you to focus intently on the process. This is a really simple way to differentiate the fixed and the growth mindset people as well. One is focused on the process, and one is focused on the individual. Of course, we can all have a natural propensity for learning a particular thing, but that will only get us so far if we want to stay in our comfort zone. I'm sure we can all think of examples of people, either from our own lives or in a very public situation such as sports people, who appear to have all the talent in the world at a young age, but somehow they fail to progress and reach their potential. Perhaps it's because they're not willing to push themselves and embrace the inevitable failures that will take place in favour of learning. It seems like something way too simple and possibly even a bit preschool for us as traders. But believe me on this, I interact with many people learning to trade, and I can see the difference instantly between people that have a growth or a fixed mindset, and they don't even realize they're doing it. Even after understanding the difference between the two mindsets, if they watched our Great Trader series, they still just don't realize they're falling into that category. In fact, one of the main things I see in traders is that they don't want to learn new concepts if they think they're going to be tricky or if they're going to need some work to understand them. They prefer instead to stick with the tools and concepts that they perceive as being straightforward and easy to understand. That way they can enjoy the feeling of executing something perfectly, even if it doesn't make them money. Take, for example, using a static position size instead of a dynamic position size. It's so easy to open a position based on it being 1% of the account at risk every time, or even just one contract and a 20 pip stop loss for every trade to make it even easier. Because to make the percentage at risk and a stop loss size different each time takes work. It may feel tricky to understand at the start, and the trader may not excel immediately at it. This may mean that there's a chance for failure. But this is how you learn, so there's no point avoiding these things. If you look in our comments section, you'll see a lot of comments from traders saying things like, well, this seems overly complicated, or other comments along those lines. This will sometimes lead them to accusing the certain thing of being incorrect, which relates back to our topic in the recent video on cognitive dissonance. And all of this relates back to this fixed mindset, the need to stick to things that you can do well, to document how good you are at something rather than taking on a more challenging task, even if that challenging task will help you learn and improve. Or how about just with your trading in general, not focusing on specific parts of it? Just like any other complex task, you can look at other people doing it well and look at the stage that you're at now, compare yourself to them and think to yourself how talented they are. But at the end of the day, it's not about the talent. You need to understand it comes down to effort. Rather than thinking you'll never understand what you're doing or you're not good enough or intelligent enough, you need to start thinking, well, maybe I'm just not putting in enough effort, or maybe I'm just approaching this in the wrong way. You see, most of us have been brought up with this fixed mindset lodged in our mind. We're put into groups at school based on our perceived intelligence for maths or science or English, and now we might think as we've grown up that we're actually not good enough at maths or physics. But we can be. We just have to learn and put in the effort. You need to drag yourself out of this fixed mindset thinking and pursue a growth mindset approach instead. The problem is not you as an individual, it's the process. However, it's really important to embrace this concept and not just give it lip service. This is what Dr. Dweck refers to as the false growth mindset. False growth mindset is saying you have a growth mindset when you don't really have it, or you don't really understand. It's also false in the sense that nobody has a growth mindset in everything all the time. Everyone is a mixture of fixed and growth mindsets. You could have a predominant growth mindset in an area, but there can still be things that trigger you into a fixed mindset trait. Something really challenging and outside your comfort zone can trigger it. Or if you encounter someone who is much better than you at something you pride yourself on, you can think, oh, that person has ability, not me. So I think we all, students and adults, have to look for our fixed mindset triggers and understand when we are falling into that mindset. This needs to become something you deeply understand and slowly reframe in your mind. But we can help ourselves along the way by changing our own self-talk. It's sort of like those PMA freaks, positive mental attitudes, who won't allow any negative speak at all, but rather than us being these weird, unrealistic, eternal optimists, we just need to be realistic. Rather than saying, I suck at trend lines, you could say, trend lines are a challenge for me right now. Or, I'm not good at calculating my risk management. You could change that to, I need to put more effort into calculating my risk management and try new approaches which will help me get to my desired outcome better. And this doesn't only work for activities or skills, it can also work for traits and habits as well. Rather than thinking, I always overtrade and revenge trade, you can instead say, I have revenge traded and overtraded a lot in the past, and I need to work on this. Basically, you need to reframe your mind to understand that things aren't permanent. Just like Henry Ford said, like we said at the start, whether we think we can or we can't, we're right. We need to realize that we don't have barriers in the places that we think we do, and if we want to progress with trading or anything else, we need to realize that part of this involves challenging ourselves, accepting failure and putting in the effort to grow. You're not limited by your current skill set or what you think that you're born with. So, in the next videos, we're going to be discussing more practical mindset improvements, which we discussed briefly in the Great Trader series, but we'll now go into a lot more detail with it, as well as a practical way to learn from failure that is used by scientists. And we may also cover this particular subject again if it's clear that you need more practical applications of it. So please do leave a comment below either quoting the part that you found most insightful, which will help further cement that idea in your mind and your own understanding, or with any questions about particular areas which you want me to go into more detail with. And once you finish this video, check out the Great Trader series. I'll put a link at the end of this video. Even if you've watched it before, you should check it out again and really start to embrace these concepts. Thanks a lot for spending some time with me today, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos. I will see you soon.